Buster Murdaugh has mostly avoided the spotlight since his father's murder conviction, but questions still loom. Did Buster know more than he let on, and did he truly believe his father was innocent? Here's what we know. Some cases leave true crime fanatics scratching their heads for years. In the case of Alec Murdaugh's crime, the details aren't exactly simple either. In fact, the case is incredibly convoluted. On the night of June 7, 2021, Alec phoned the police to report the discovery of his wife Maggie and youngest son Paul. They had died at their hunting lodge estate as a result of several gunshot wounds. 3 months later, Alec Murdaugh was the target of a roadside shooting, but escaped with a minor head injury. However, it was soon discovered that Alec had hired a man to kill him. The endgame? He wanted his son Buster to be able to collect on his $10 million life insurance policy. More information surfaced over time, including Alec Murdaugh's alleged opioid addiction and accusations of money laundering. Understandably, with the death of his mother and brother and his father's trial looming, Buster took a step back from the public eye. According to a former classmate who spoke with People in July 2022, he's not doing well at all. He really withdrew after everything happened. He has really closed off and built walls around himself. Another friend told the outlet, Buster is collateral damage to his father's situation. His circle of friends got really small really fast. Buster Murdaugh's testimony in his father's trial proved to be pretty groundbreaking. When Alec Murdaugh faced the judge in January of 2023, Buster defended his father's character and made it clear that he never questioned his innocence, even as he recounted the night he learned of the deaths of his mom and little brother. Shortly after Alec informed the police, he called his son to let him know what had happened.
He sounded odd, and then he told me that my mom and brother had been shot.
Buster and his girlfriend Brooklyn White made their way to the estate where Margaret and Paul were killed, and Buster explained that when he finally saw Alec Murdaugh, he was distraught.
He was destroyed. He was heartbroken. I walked in the door and saw him and gave him a hug.
Alec Murdaugh later said he had been spending time with his elderly mother, who had Alzheimer's disease at the time of the killings, according to NBC News. To Buster, it seemed clear that the police had apprehended the wrong man. After about a month and a half of testimony and only 3 hours of deliberation, Alec was ultimately found guilty of 2 counts of murder. Despite maintaining his innocence, much of the world believed the right verdict had been met. However, his eldest son still hasn't indicated that he's doubted his father's story in the years since. Alec Murdaugh is now spending his life in prison, but that hasn't kept him from keeping in touch with Buster during his incarceration. Although their phone conversations have reportedly been awkward at times, the only surviving Murdaugh son has continued to take his dad's calls. In an interview for Fox Nation's 3-part docuseries, The Fall of the House of Murdaugh, Buster gave a perspective on his dad that he hadn't previously shared.
My biggest thing that I want people to realize that there are always 2 sides of the story.
However, he also agreed with interviewer Martha McCallum that he thinks his dad exhibits the traits of a psychopath. He told McCallum,
I think there are characteristics where you look at the manipulation and the lies and the carrying out of that such, and I think that's a fair assessment.
Seeing as how Alec lied to both law enforcement and Buster about his alibi on the night of the murder, it's an understandable stance for Buster to have taken. Alec Murdaugh, a now disbarred attorney, followed his father into practicing law, who followed his own father. The family has been a pillar in the legal system in South Carolina for roughly a century, so it makes sense that Buster Murdaugh planned on following suit. That was until he was reportedly expelled from University of South Carolina School of Law, his dad's alma mater. The reason? Allegedly, poor grades and plagiarism, and it all went down shortly before the murders. If you look at the life of privilege the Murdaugh family lived, this isn't necessarily surprising. Buster and his brother Paul both had run-ins with the law that were swiftly handled by his father. Even after Alec was sent to prison, he tried to get Buster readmitted to USC from behind bars by paying a lawyer $60,000, according to the Post and Courier. In a November 2021 prison call, Alec told his son he needed to take that second chance seriously, telling Buster, "You've got to really buckle down. You've got to treat it like a job, because you know there's not going to be another chance." However, Buster never returned to USC. Murdaugh's attorney, Jim Griffin, told the Post and Courier in September 2022, Buster has put his desire to go to law school on hold for now. After Alec Murdaugh was sentenced, Buster Murdaugh and his longtime girlfriend, Brooklyn White, relocated to a condo in Hilton Head, South Carolina. The couple probably would have appreciated a fresh start, but they continued to be photographed out and about, remaining in the spotlight for some time. Having gone through so much, Buster seemed to only want privacy for himself and White, but it unfortunately got to the point that the couple just couldn't escape the press. In March 2023, Buster told the police that he and White were being stalked. He reported that he had seen invasive photographs of the inside of their apartment in an article, and that their Ring doorbell camera showed a suspicious vehicle outside their home. White filed a complaint with the police too, in which she detailed how a YouTuber continually followed the couple and would peer into their car windows. She said in the report, the behavior of certain members of the press had become increasingly unsettling and frightening. Things may have mellowed out for a while as the media moved on to the next story, but the release of the docuseries The Fall of the House of Murdaugh brought attention back to Buster and his family. In terms of the Murdaugh family's disturbing connection to murder, we've only really just scratched the surface. Of course, the patriarch of the family was found guilty of killing his wife and son, but other strange occurrences have also been linked to the Murdaughs. Back in 2015, rumors alleged that Buster Murdaugh was somehow involved in the death of his classmate, Stephen Smith, whose body had been discovered on a road near the family's estate. It was thought by some that the two had some sort of romantic relationship that had gone wrong. While Smith's death was originally ruled as vehicular manslaughter, it was later changed to homicide.
It's been a rough road.
The Murdaughs' involvement in Stephen Smith's death came into question throughout several docuseries. Buster has denied having anything to do with Smith's death.
I never had anything to do with his murder, and I never had anything to do with him on a physical level of any regard.
Buster has since moved to sue Netflix and other media companies for alluding that he may have been Smith's killer. As of this video, Buster has not been named a person of interest or suspect in the death of Smith. It would not be the last death the family would be implicated in. In 2018, the family's housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield, died after apparently tripping and falling at the Murdaugh residence. Alec Murdaugh and co-conspirator Corey Fleming, another lawyer, allegedly plotted to steal a $4.3 million settlement to be given to her sons, according to NBC News. Murdaugh was charged with 2 counts of obtaining property by false pretenses in connection with the missing settlement money. The recklessness doesn't end there, though. In 2019, Paul Murdaugh was accused of driving a boat with friends when he crashed, killing 19-year-old Mallory Beach. He is thought to have been drinking at the time, as medical staff who drew his blood after the crash found that his blood alcohol content was more than 3 times the legal limit. Paul even tried to relate the murders of his wife and son to someone taking revenge on them for the boating accident. There's no question that Buster Murdaugh has been through a lot. Fortunately, throughout all the scandal and heartbreak, one person has been there to support him. While he and Brooklyn White have kept their relationship fairly private, it's believed that the two met while attending the University of South Carolina and have been together ever since. As Buster testified during his father's trial, White was there when he received the devastating phone call from his father that his mom and brother were killed.
She could hear my conversation kind of over the phone, and so she just started packing stuff.
They traveled together to his family's estate, and she stood by him throughout the long days in court. It seems that after the worst of it had finally blown over, Buster realized that White was the one. After many years together, the two tied the knot in May 2025 at a former hunting estate in South Carolina. While the only surviving Murdaugh son undoubtedly missed his late family during the big day, he was hopefully at least elated to marry White amongst their other family members and friends.